In a sun-scorched Igbo village, two brothers shared a fateful oath. Iru Mmuo N'Otu, protect each other's spirit. Eze, strong and devoted, and his younger brother Nnadi, bright-eyed and cherished, walked the fields beneath the sacred Ike tree. But when Ahia Ohu, the great hunger, struck, the earth cracked, crops withered, and Agbala haunted every face. Eze, selling his last akpa green sack, gave it all to Nnadi. Ezinwane, Riye, true brother, eat. Starving, he collapsed under the Ike tree, its ancient roots seeming to breathe around him. As Nnadi cradled his brother's fading body, the more gods descended. The tree glowed, bark softening into skin, leaves shaping into hair. The village gasped. Eze was no more. The tree had claimed him as its own. Generations passed. The Ike tree became a lifeline, its shade a refuge, its Nkpa nourishing the village. Nnadi, now an elder, ate the fruit daily, grew wealthy, yet never left the tree's shadow. Every dusk, he wept at its roots. Nwanema, chom afa. Brother, forgive me. Villagers whispered, Obu mimrio zu yene mekanko wusa aho. His tears make the fruit grow. But when drought returned, the tree withered until Nnadi's grief flooded the soil. The fruit swelled. A chilling truth surfaced. The tree fed on his guilt. His tears weren't just sorrow, they were life, trapping them both in an eternal cycle of love, sacrifice, and a supernatural twist that bound souls tighter than chains. Long ago, in a green Igbo village near a great river, lived two brothers, Eze, strong like a palm tree, and Nnadi, bright like the morning sun. Their father was a farmer, tending yams and cassava, while their mother wove beautiful akwete cloth. Every evening, they played under the oldest Ike tree in the village square, a tree the elders called Ike Osisi, tree of life. The brothers shared everything, a handful of ukara, bread, a story from their grandfather, or a secret hidden in the tree's hollow. They made a promise, Iru Mmuo N'Otu, we protect each other's spirit. They worked hard, laughed often, and helped their neighbors. Life was good, blessed by Allah, the earth goddess. Then came the Aya Ohu, great hunger. Rain vanished, crops turned to dust, the river became a dry bone, animals hid, people grew thin and sick. Eze and Nnadi's parents grew too weak to work. Eze, though hungry, gave his tiny piece of bread to Nnadi. You're growing, little brother, he'd say, pretending he wasn't starving. He worked twice as hard, fetching water, digging for roots, but his strength faded like smoke. One hot afternoon, carrying a small pot of water for their mother, Eze stumbled. He fell under the sacred Ike tree, its branches whispering in the wind. He couldn't get up. The shadows wrapped around him like a hug. He whispered, "Protect him," and closed his eyes. A joyful Igbo village near the Ntama River lived two brothers, Eze as strong as an isi banyan tree, and Nnadi as bright as the morning sun. Their family was poor, but their hearts were full. Every day, they helped their father farm akpu yams and cassava, while their mother wove colorful akwete cloth. When work ended, they'd race to the village square to play under the great Ike tree. This tree was special. Elders said Ike Osisi, tree of life, watched over them. The brothers laughed, shared roasted egusi seeds, and whispered secrets to its hollow trunk. One evening, they sat under its wide branches. Eze held Nnadi's shoulder. "Nwane, let's promise something important," he said. "Iru Mmuo N'Otu, protect each other's spirits." Nnadi nodded, eyes shining. "Always, big brother." But one year, the sky turned hard like clay. Rain stopped. The Nantama River became a dry, cracked path. Crops withered. Agbala, the hunger spirit, crept into the village. Bellies growled. Children grew thin. Eze and Nnadi's father grew too weak to dig the fields. Their mother cried, holding her Agba mortar empty. Food vanished. Neighbors bartered their last cloth for a handful of okazi leaves. Eze saw Nnadi shiver at night, his eyes big and hungry. "Don't worry, little son," Eze whispered. "I'll find us food." He worked day and night, digging for wild yams, but the earth was empty. One morning, Eze found a tiny sack of offal grain hidden in their father's old store. It was barely enough for one thin porridge. He boiled it in a small pot, the smell making their stomachs ache. As he stirred, Nnadi watched, licking his lips. Eze split the porridge into 2 bowls. "Eat, little brother," he said gently. "You're growing. You need it more." Nnadi pushed the bowl back. "No, we share." But Eze's face was firm like stone. "Kwe omume, no way. Remember our promise? Iru Mmuo N'Otu, I must protect you." He forced the bigger bowl into Nnadi's hands. "Izinwane, true brother, eat." Nnadi cried as he ate, spoon by spoon. Days passed. The porridge was gone. Eze grew thinner. His arms, once strong enough to carry sacks of yams, now shook like dry leaves. He gave Nnadi the last crumbs of hope, a few wild berries, a cup of dirty river water. "Drink, little brother. Stay strong for me." Nnadi tried to refuse, but Eze smiled weakly. "Mingaiwe ihem kwesiri. I'll do what I must." He sent Nnadi to fetch water, then collapsed near the sea plant. When Nnadi returned, he found his brother crawling toward the Ike tree, one hand dragging in the dust. "Eze!" he screamed, dropping the water pot. "Get up, please!" Nnadi dragged his brother to the Ike tree's shade. Eze leaned against its thick roots, gasping. The tree's leaves rustled, casting dancing shadows on his face. "I'm so tired, little brother," he whispered, "but I'm glad you're safe." He touched the tree's bark. "Protect him, always," he breathed to the tree. Then his eyes closed. His head fell to the side. Nnadi shook him, crying, "Wake up! Don't leave me!" But Eze didn't move. As the sun set, painting the sky orange and purple, the Ike tree's branches seemed to lean lower. Its shadows stretched long and thin over Eze's body, wrapping around him like a gentle hug. The wind sighed through its leaves. "Shh, rest now." Nnadi refused to leave Eze's side under the Ike tree. He held his brother's cold hand, crying, "Nwanmem Bili, brother, wake up," until his throat burned. Villagers gathered, covering their faces with isi owu cloth in respect. "Ike Osisi," they whispered. The elders performed ikwa ozu, prayers for the dead, sprinkling manya, palm wine, on the roots. "Allah nabataya, earth, receive him." But as the sun set, a strange silence fell. The tree's leaves stopped rustling. Even the insects went quiet. Nnadi felt a warm breeze, unusual for Harmattan season, lift Eze's hair. Suddenly, the air hummed. Soft golden light pulsed from the tree's trunk. "Muonai Bia, spirits are coming," an elder gasped. The light swirled around Eze's body, shaping itself like hands. Roots lifted from the soil, cradling him like a baby. Chiya nacho iburu yanku, cried Ada, the village seer. The tree's bark began to change. Hard wood softened into dark skin. Rough knots smoothed into facial features. Leaves wove themselves into a crown of hair. Branches bent into arms that hugged the earth. Nnadi stared, trembling. Is this a blessing or a curse? When the light faded, Eze was gone. In his place stood the Ike tree, but now its trunk held his gentle face, its branches his strong arms. Villagers fell to their knees. Onye Arusi, a god has come, they chanted. Ike Osisi ga'azoputa anye, the tree of life will save us. But Nnadi wept harder. He touched the bark. It felt like Eze's chest. A leaf fell on his palm, cool and damp. Nwane okanuadi, brother, are you still there? The wind sighed through the leaves. Shh, rest. Nnadi pressed his ear to the trunk. Faintly, he heard a heartbeat. Thump, thump, thump. The next morning, a child pointed, Ndiri, food. Fruits hung from the tree, large, purple, glowing like udala berries. The villagers hesitated, then picked one. The taste, sweet like ube plums, but with a hint of bitter herbs. Just like Eze's favorite soup, egusi with utatsi. A hungry baby stopped crying. An old woman smiled for the first time in months. Nkwe bube, miracle fruit, they cheered. But Nnadi tasted it and vomited. Obunsi, it's poison, he cried. The elder Ada shook her head. Obugunsi, obu ihe ojiri buru onyenku. It's not poison, it's why he became a guardian. That night, Nnadi dreamed of Eze. His brother stood in a dark place, roots at his feet, leaves in his hair. Little brother, he said softly, I'm not in pain. I'm part of the wind now, part of the soil. He touched Nnadi's cheek. But remember, what feeds the village feeds me. What heals them heals you. Nnadi woke with a jolt. Dawn broke. The tree's face seemed to watch him. He packed his small mat. I'll stay with you, brother, he whispered, till the moon and sun fade. As he spoke, a single tear fell on the root. The tree's leaves shimmered and another cluster of fruit bloomed. Months became years under the transformed Ike tree. Rainy seasons came and went, but Nnadi never left its shadow. He built a small ulo hut nearby, its walls woven from akwete cloth. Every morning at dawn, he walked to the tree, carrying a calabash of manya, palm wine, and a bowl of akamu, pap. Eze, nri o ruo nanya, brother, food for the living. He placed the offerings at the roots, then sat silently, tracing the bark face with his fingers. The villagers called him Onya na akwanyere Osisi Ugbo, he who honors the tree. They no longer saw Eze in the wood, just a kind spirit. But Nnadi heard his brother's voice in the rustling leaves. Thank you, little brother. The Ike tree fed the village. Children climbed its branches to pick Nkpanari, miracle fruit, their laughter echoing. Women brewed the fruit into ogi, porridge that cured fevers. Men shade rested under its boughs after farming. Ike Osisi nainyendu, the tree of life gives life, they'd sing. But Nnadi noticed secrets. The fruit tasted sweeter when he wept. If he smiled, the tree bore fewer fruits. Once he traveled to a neighboring village for 3 days. When he returned, the tree's leaves hung limp and no new fruit grew. The elders whispered, Osisi na anu ozuya. This tree smells of sorrow. Every dusk, Nnadi became Onyel Koko, he who weeps. He'd lean against the bark face, remembering Eze's laugh, his strong arms carrying firewood, his voice singing old songs. Tears fell on the roots. Choma afo nuanim, forgive me, brother. Mga chota ginna nyondu, I'll find you in every living thing. Villagers passing by would hear him and sigh, Leo bi keya, see his strong heart. But young children grew afraid. Why does the tree uncle cry so much? They'd ask. Their mothers shushed them. His tears water the roots. The tree remembers. Then came the Okochi Onu, dead summer. The sun burned for weeks. Rivers dried. Crops turned to dust. The village's wells became empty pits. Fear of Agbalaagu, hunger spirit, returned. People begged the Ike tree, Nye ani nri onye arusi, give us food, Holy One. But the tree stayed bare. Leaves curled like old paper. Nnadi tried to pray, but his eyes stayed dry. I can't cry on command, he told the bark face. I'm empty too. That night, a child died of thirst. The village wailed. At dawn, Nnadi stood before the tree, ashamed. He thought of Eze starving beside him years ago. He thought of the promise, Iru Mmuo N'Otu. He pressed his forehead to the root. Eze, I'm sorry I failed us. A single tear fell, then another. He wept, not loud sobs, but quiet, shaking cries for his brother, the village, the child. His tears soaked the soil. Plink, plink, drops hit the dust. Suddenly, the wind changed. The tree's branches shivered. Dozens of purple fruits swelled on the boughs. Villagers gasped. Osinekwe? The tree heard. An elder pointed. Le kamiri sino ozuyanwe ike. See how water from his sorrow gives strength. Nnadi wiped his eyes, trembling. You need my tears, don't you, brother? The tree's leaves rustled softly. A sigh of relief or answer. Years passed. The village thrived under the Ike tree. But when the Okochi Onwu, dead summer, returned, the earth cracked like broken pots. Wells ran dry. Crops died. Fear of Agbala, hunger spirit, haunted everyone. Nnadi, now old and gray, sat beneath the tree at dusk. He wept softly, Cha mafo nwanemi, forgive me, brother. But his tears felt hollow. That night, the Ndi-Ichi ancestors came to him in a dream. They stood in a misty forest, their faces like ancient bark. Nnadi, listen, said the oldest, his voice like dry leaves. Ike Osisi bu onye na eri obi. Ona anu uju, ona eri ihi uju. It feeds on sorrow. It eats the breath of grief. Nnadi woke with a jolt. A lie, he whispered. A tree cannot eat a soul. Driven by anger, Nnadi vowed to prove the ancestors wrong. Ike Osisi horo mi. Tree of life, hear me. He stopped weeping. For 3 days, he sat dry-eyed under the boughs, praying to Allah, Earth Goddess, and singing old songs. The villagers watched, nervous. On the 4th day, the tree's leaves turned brittle. The purple fruits shriveled like raisins. A child grew sick from eating dust. Le ihe imere, cried the child's mother. Ike Osisi na acho ikuta ubochi. Nnadi's resolve cracked. Guilt choked him. He remembered Eze collapsing, the weight of the Ofo grain, the promise Iru Mmuo N'Otu. Eze, are you hungry? The elders gathered, sprinkling nyanya, palm wine at the roots. Great tree, forgive us, we are dust. They turned to Nnadi, eyes pleading. Gusi ike okenye, see struggling elder. Kunye miri ozugi na kuku osisi a. Nnadi shook his head. Oburuna mebie, abum onye na epuchi ozu. If I submit, I am a grave digger. But as the village wailed, Aniga iri aja, will eat sand. He felt the tree's roots shift. They wrapped around his ankles, not hurting, but holding him firm. You need me, he realized, horror dawning. You need my sadness to live. Nnadi touched the bark face, now weathered like his own. Eze, is this you? The wind sighed. Shh, protect. He pressed his ear to the trunk. Beyond the wind, beyond the rustling leaves, he heard it. A faint, steady thump, 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 thump. Eze's heartbeat. But it sounded weak. Chi moo, Nnadi wept. You're not free. You're trapped. My tears, they're not just for you. They're your food. The tree's branches groaned, bending lower until leaves brushed his shoulders, like an embrace or chains. Iru Mmuo N'Otu, he whispered, tears finally falling. Always together, even in this. The first tear hit the root. A single plum-sized fruit swelled on a branch. Nnadi became the Otemiri Ozu, tear tax collector. Every morning he filled his itemiri water pot with tears at the tree's roots. The more he wept, remembering Eze's laugh, his strong hands lifting him onto his shoulders, their mother's songs, the sweeter the Nkpa, miracle fruit, tasted. Villagers called it Oru Ebube, holy work. But Nnadi's heart grew quiet. He stopped singing, stopped smiling. Is this love, he'd ask the bark face, or is this punishment? The tree's leaves rustled. Shh, protect. At harvest festivals, the village celebrated Ike Osisi, Onyen So, the tree holy one. They hung oge, colored cloth, on its branches, danced atilogu, acrobatic dances, and shared stew made from the fruit. Lengozi, they cheered. But Nnadi sat alone, eating a single fruit. It tasted like dust. He'd peek at the bark face, its eyes closed like Eze sleeping forever. An elder noticed. Why the long face? The tree feeds us all. Nnadi whispered, and what does it feed on? The elder paled. Don't ask such things. When drought came again, Nnadi's tears became the village's water. He'd weep into the dry riverbed and springs would bubble. Osine kwe, the tree hears, they'd shout. But Nnadi felt the tree's roots coil deeper into the earth, drinking his sorrow. One night, he snuck away, binding his eyes with akwere cloth. I won't cry, not today. He walked until the tree's silhouette vanished, but the air turned cold, distant screams. He uncovered his eyes. The Ike tree stood before him, roots writhing like angry serpents. You need me, he realized. You can't feed without me. Old and frail, Nnadi leaned against the bark. Eze, he cried, I'm tired, so tired. He pressed his ear to the trunk. Beyond the wind, he heard it. Thump, thump. Eze's heartbeat, slow and fading. Chi Mom, my spirit, Nnadi wept. Are you in there? Truly. The tree groaned, branches bent, cradling him like a child. I'm here, a voice sighed, not in the wind, not in the leaves, but in the wood, deep, tired, and hungry. Your tears, they're my breath. Your grief, it's my blood. Nnadi smiled through tears. Then I'll give it, always. As he spoke, a fruit swelled, shaped like a tear. Nnadi, old and frail, lay on a mat beside the Ike tree. His breath was shallow, eyes fixed on the bark face. Ise, he whispered, I'm here. He remembered their promise, Iru Mmuo N'Otu. His final tear fell, not of sadness, but of love. Miri ozum nye yandu. My sorrow water, give him life. The tear hit the root. The tree glowed. Its branches shuddered. Crack! A single seed fell into Nnadi's palm, warm and pulsing like a heart. Chi mum, he breathed, you're free. The tree's face softened. Aze's eyes, closed for decades, opened, not in pain, but peace. Thank you, little brother. A voice sighed in the wind. Nnadi smiled. Nanam, ebe obibi. My home at last. His chest stilled. The village wailed. Onyene kwanyere osisi ugbo anwola. He who honored the tree is gone. They buried Nnadi beside the Ike tree, placing the seed on his chest. That night a storm came. Lightning split the sky. Rain fell on the grave, but only on the grave. The seed sprouted, shooting roots into Nnadi's hands, leaves into the air. By dawn, a new Ụzọ Nkwọ tree path stood where he lay, young, strong, bearing fruit without tears. The old Ike tree, its branches hung low, back face faded, but its roots, they tangled with the new trees deep in the earth. Generations passed. The Ụzọ Nkwọ fed the village, needing no tears. Children climbed it, laughing, but the old Ike tree still stood. At dusk, wind sighed through its leaves. Eze, Nnadi. A child pointed. Le ka osisi iko ozu. Look how the tree weeps. An elder hugged her. Abugi eku ozu. Abu iko abu. It's not leaping, it's singing a story. She didn't say how the new tree's fruit tasted sweeter near the old roots, or how Nnadi's grave never felt cold. The wind sighed again, a lullaby or a promise kept. The story of Ise and Nnadi teaches us, even the purest love can become a cage if it traps others. When Ise gave his last food to his brother, it was a brave act of Iru Mmuo N'Otu, protecting each other's spirit. But the god's gift, turning him into the Ike tree, twisted this love into something heavy. The tree needed Nnadi's tears to live, binding him to endless sadness. Their promise, meant to free, became a chain. True protection doesn't chain, it sets free. Nnadi's tears fed the village, but they also kept his brother a prisoner inside the wood. This shows when sacrifice becomes a demand, when love feels like I must suffer for you to live, it hurts everyone. Even the earth can't thrive on tears alone. But the story also gives hope. Love outlives pain when it chooses balance. When Nnadi planted the sacred seed on his grave, it grew into a new Ụzọ Nkwọ tree path that bore fruit without needing tears. This new tree reminds us, true love isn't about forever owing, it's about forever caring. As his spirit was freed and Nnadi's heart could finally rest, their bond didn't break, it changed. The old Ike tree stands too, whispering their story in the wind. Not as a cry, but as a song. The greatest lesson? Love should be like the new tree, strong enough to stand alone, yet connected by roots of memory. It gives life without making you pay with your joy. This story also teaches that love should feel like sunshine, not a storm.